All right, everybody, this is lesson number 8, sprite properties. It's a really short lesson, so I'm posting it today and it'll be due tomorrow. So it's a short one, and there's some new code we're going to be looking at. If you look here, we've got sprite rotation, sprite scale, sprite X, and sprite Y. Notice they all have a dot. Remember from one of our last lessons, we started talking about dot notation. So when you're actually writing the code without using the blocks, you use the dots, okay? But we're going to be using the blocks for most of us anyway. Some of you guys might want to use the other thing. So here's our question of the day. How can we use sprite properties to change their appearance on the screen? So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be kind of changing what the sprites look like and talking about how we can change the rotation, their scale, which is bigger or smaller, and their X and Y value on the screen. So again, our vocabulary property is a label for a characteristic of the sprite, such as its location and its appearance. Okay, let's move on to the prediction. Okay, so if you look at just the code here, all right, so we have a variable that's been initialized called b, and it's going to be at the center. It says that it's supposed to be at the center of the screen. Then we have b, which matches, and it's set to a b, which is the picture. But now we have some new code that we haven't used before. So we have our dot notation. So we've got our bx and our by. So we can see that we have 350 and 350. So if you're looking at the screen here and you're going to say 350 here, 350 here. So the x value is 350, the y value is 350. So it appears that these two numbers override these two numbers, okay? So the b will appear at 350, 350. So if you look at your predictions, I kind of already did the prediction, but you should be able to figure that out. So if it's down here, what part of the screen is it? Well, in the bottom right corner, okay, approximately. So if you look at all of these, it's not going to be in the middle. It's going to be in the bottom right. You know, if there's not 2 B sprites, there's not 3 B sprites. Okay, so let's run the program. And there it is. There's our B that shows up in the bottom right corner. All right, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to, I'm going to start this one over because I already did this one. I'm going to show you guys how to adjust things, okay? So if we run the program, it says run the program to see where the sprites appear. You can predict where the sprites appear too, okay? So we have a palette, which is what painters put their paint on, and then we've got a paintbrush. So the palette is here and the brush is here. So the palette's X value is 100 and its Y value is 300. So 100, 300. So the palette's going to appear here, and the brush is going to appear at 300 and 100 right here. Okay, that's easy to tell. Like if you guys have been paying attention, you should be able to know and predict what's going to happen just by looking at the code. So let's run the code, and there it is. So there's our palette, there's our brush. So what you guys need to do is change the X and Y properties of the paintbrush to move it to the palette. So you want to move this to about here. All right, so you guys will have to, the palette doesn't move, so you're not going to mess around with the palette's X and Y values, but you are going to mess around with the brush's X and Y values. Remember, if you mess it up, you go to version history and click on start over. All right, let's move on. All right, this one here, let's see. Let's run the program. All right, so we can see here, there's a lot going on here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pictures. Okay, so we've got the drum set, which is up here, the variable drums, and there's the spot where it's located. We have its animation, which is just drum set. Then we have 3 notes, or 4 notes, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's look at the notes and how they are placed here. So note number 1 is this note right here. Okay, so it's a picture of an 8th note. Notice it's not straight up and down. It's kind of rotated to the right. So, and it's smaller than the other notes. So there's 2 things to look at here. If we look at what it says here, sprites have lots of properties. Check out the 2 new blocks in this activity and try them out for yourself. Notice that different sprites can use the same animation and look different because of the properties. So these 4 pictures are all the same picture. See, they're all 8th note, but we changed their properties. So we're going to be using the rotation and the scale blocks on these last 2 to kind of make them look interesting. Okay, and there's more than one way to do this. So let's look at this note 1. So the scale is, notice the scale is 0.3. If you put the scale as a whole number, like 1 or 2 or 3, then it's going to get huge really, really fast. So we use decimal numbers. We see the rotation is positive 20, which is, it's when you start up here at 0, you go to the right is a positive number, to the left is a negative number. So you can see here is positive 20, and that's usually measured in degrees, right? So it's 20 degrees that way. This one here is negative, and let's look down here. The rotation for note 2 is negative 30. Notice it's bigger than this note, so this one is 0.3 and this one's 0.7. So your job is to use these 2 new pieces of code, the scale and the rotation. Now I'm going to show you how to use them, but you're going to be the ones to use them. So here's what we're going to do. So we have note 1, note 1, note 1, note 1. So notice these are all together. Then we have note 2, note 2, note 2, note 2. Okay, so then we have note 3 and note 3. So now we have to add the scale and the rotation. So here's how you do it. You go to your variables in the toolbox and you click on this one that says x equals. So this is going to assign a variable. So this one I'm going to put right underneath here under the set animation, like so. Okay. And I'm going to put a second one underneath there too, because I'm going to be creating 2. I'm going to be creating a scale and a rotation. Okay. So then we go to sprites. And here we have scale, and we have rotation. So I'm going to put my scale in the first one. So there's the first one, sprite scale. And then I'm going to put my sprite notation right there. All right. So this one's just about done. Now, remember, note 1, note 1, note 1, note 1, note 2, note 2, note 2, note 2, note 3, note 3, note 3, note 3. So these have to be the same. So note 3 and note 3. Okay. Now you have to mess around with the numbers. So the scale, I mean, watch this if you put a 2 here. Watch how huge it gets. And we don't want it this big. So I'm just going to put a 2 there just to show you guys. Whoop, that didn't even work. So, oh, it's because line 15 is empty. So let's do rotation as, I don't know, 0. See how big that is? And the 0 rotation means it doesn't move anywhere. So 2 is way too big. Okay, so if we want it a little bit bigger than this one, which is 0.7, then go in small increments. So let's make it 0.8. And let's rotate it forward just a little bit. So maybe rotate it forward 10 degrees. So it would be a positive number. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. There we go. So it's a little bit bigger than this one, and it's kind of going in the other way. So your job is to do the same thing for note 4. This one should be, I mean, you could leave this one with, make this like 0.9 or 1 or whatever, and then change the rotation on it. All right, so you're going to do the same thing for the last note that I just did for note number 3. Okay. Now the practices. So the practices are just practicing with scale. Okay, so you're going to see that all of the scales are set to 1. Okay, they're all the same. We want it to look like this. We want it to be the smallest, then the fish, then the cow, then the elephant. So if I run the program, obviously they're all at the original scale. So we have to start scaling them way down. So we're going to be using decimal numbers, all right? And I think even using 1 for the elephant is even too big. So all of them are going to be decimal numbers. So if we start out with the fly at, say, I don't know, let's make it 0.2. Okay. And then let's make the fish 0.5 or something. So let's just reset it and run it. So you're going to see that it makes them smaller. And then the cow and the elephant obviously have to be smaller too. You don't want them to be at 1. 1 is too big. So mess around with the 0 decimal numbers. You know, they should be tenths. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys do that on your own. We'll go back to the practice rotation property. I'm not going to do this one for you. So let's look at what happens when we run it. So we have we have to have the cars all facing in the proper direction. So you can see that they each have headlights. This car has to be facing the opposite direction. This one is fine the way it is. So if you look at everything, you're looking at the rotation. Okay. So you're going to have to go ahead and put in the rotation. So you're going to have to add your sprite. So car top is this one. This one doesn't need anything at all. Okay. But if we look at car left, this one here needs to be kind of pointing this way. So if you look at this, and it's going to be going, you guys are looking at me this way, but you're going to be going 90 degrees, right? 90 degrees forward. So if you're kind of looking at me backwards, so it'll be 90 degrees forward. So the red is going to be a positive 90. So I'll do the first one, and we'll see if it works. So the car left, we're going to put that right under here. And we're going to go to the rotation. Remember, it's got to say car left there, and it's camel case, so you make sure it's capital L. And like I said, it's 90 degrees to the right. So let's see if that works. Let's reset it. And there we go. Perfect. So this rotated the car 90 degrees. This one here, it's not going to be 90. It's going to be less than 90. And this one up here is going to be, this one down here is going to be halfway around the circle. So you guys will have to add the rotation in and figure out how many degrees each rotation is. Okay? And the assessment. So this assessment is simply making these all fit on the plate using your scale. Okay, so we have our variable fries, variable burger, variable dessert. After the set animation, you guys have to go ahead and add in the scale. Boom, boom, and mess around with the numbers. Remember, 1 is probably going to be too big, so it's got to be a decimal number in the tenths. All right, good luck. I will post the solution to this probably on Friday. All right, good luck.